Everything in life kind of feels like we're having a collective existential crisis right now. Our energy levels are low. The world is on fire. There are people actively burning parts of it down. And it just feels very low energy. It feels like the world has gotten old and the underbrush is catching. There's a lot of pain, a lot of worry, a lot of fear, a lot of concern. This week, our study in Druidcraft led us through the path of health and rejuvenation. We heard a lot of stories and were taught a lot of interesting ideas about how we can tap back into those energy resources that we really need right now. I really want to focus in on the whys of this chapter because there's something special in the story that we got this week that might help us understand how to live through these chaotic and turbulent times that we're currently in, and through the chaotic times that we'll probably always be in. Let's talk about the ways of health and rejuvenation today as we walk together down creation's paths. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie. I am a Christo-Pagan Druid and priest of Brigid.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm a Christo-Pagan Druid and sous chef to the Dogdo.
Today, we're continuing our study through Chapter 5 of Druidcraft by Philip Cargam. There's a lot to break down out of this. As we continued our study, we got to hear the story about why people get sick and die and why medicine can't always help them from the ancient Irish point of view. We had a little bit of a talk about Nwyfre and just different ways to reconnect to that rejuvenation and to bring health and healing and just energy into our lives. And we're going to talk a lot more about the energy stuff tomorrow. We're going to talk more about the energy stuff tomorrow when we're going to dedicate the entire episode to Nwyfre. But today, I want to just focus on that first story about Dian Cécht and his kids before we get into all that. If you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology happens to be on whatever app you're listening to us on. We do original Christo-Pagan and Druid episodes 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And you don't want to miss a thing, especially as we're going through our Druidcraft 101 series, trying to help everyone either get their magical practice started or find a common language through which we can all talk about these experiences in life. All right, let's just get into it.
I really like the placement of this chapter in the magical journey and development that is Druidcraft.
Yeah.
Taking this moment as they're learning what is magic and how to connect in and then how to actually employ magic to pause and just say, we're going to take a moment and work on health and rejuvenation. We're going to take a moment and learn about what that is, because I think one of the hardest struggles all practitioners face is when they face personal health struggles in relation to their magical practice. I know for myself, and I've heard Charlie say before, like when one is in pain or struggling with health issues, it can be very hard to meditate, whether that's physical health issues or mental health issues. It's very difficult to meditate, to get into that space. And so it is so important to understand, to be able to properly contextualize. That was just something I really like taking that moment, that break from before getting into more of the actual magical practices.
I really like the story. There's so much of Irish mythology that really connects with me because there's something about the god of healing being a jealous and petulant god who is so frustrated that anyone could be better than that. In a way, it connects me to a lot of real world things because we like to talk, we hear so much these days about how the world is chaotic or the world is uncaring, unfeeling, this disenchanted, cold, dead world hypothesis that really breathes through so much of our modern society. It's because of this rise of scientism, not science, but scientism, this weird side philosophy slash religion that has come up with it, because it's important for us to realize and always bear in mind that science, like all human endeavors, including spirituality, religion, and magic, is a human construct. Science, even medical science, is trying to categorize things. It's trying to fit things neatly into boxes. And things don't always fit neatly into the boxes we want them to fit in. We too often pretend that things fit in the boxes that really don't. We can talk about silly ones like what is a vegetable, right? Because the way we use the term vegetable, we get to say pedantic things. Well, so technically that's a fruit and all that. And there's the size because it's such an old joke, but it's a good example of what we're talking about here. You're trying to throw everything into a box. Remember, when you're going around collecting things to put in boxes, if the goal is go to the beach and pick up seashells, and somebody comes back and only has a box of seashells, it would be erroneous to say there are no rocks on the beach. I went to the beach looking for seashells. I only collected seashells. Therefore, there's no kelp on the beach. There's no sand on the beach. There's just seashells. No, there are pebbles, there are rocks, there's sand, there's water, for goodness sake. There's all the things that are in the water. But when you're looking for something, that's what you're going to be putting in the box. And this is a blind spot that is as true for science, which is looking for only things that can be measured and repeatedly tested, which is honestly a great way to discover wisdom and knowledge, not knocking science. But it's also something dangerous for us who do practice magic, because if you're only looking for the magical solution, that's all you're picking up and putting into the box as well. And so we've gotten into this world where you have those people who are practicing, whether they call it magic or not, right? They're healing arts. And some people are only picking up the science bits and putting them in the box. And some people are only putting in the woo-woo bits and putting them in the box. The thing is, there's room in this world for us to do a little bit of both, because not every magic is going to work for everybody. Some magic is just harnessing the placebo effect. And you know what? The thing that they don't tell you about the placebo effect is your body actually acts as if it was treated and often actually takes care of the malady. That's powerful magic. I don't care, and I've said this a lot, if what I'm doing is just a placebo, as if it is getting results. And that's the thing. If it is getting results, I am not going to turn a blind eye and say, well, the disease persists, but I really believe that this is going to make, no, you use the treatments that are going to make you better. And you need to be pulling from both boxes. Medicine exists for a reason. I think too many people want to dismiss it because it is in itself so dismissive. It doesn't want to see the role that relationships and community has in people's healing, because those are hard to measure. But it's important to have a strong support system around us as we're trying to heal. It's important to have people in our lives that are supporting us and helping us through our healing. And again, hard to measure. So it's not something that's often in science. Hearing kind words, having a positive attitude, these things are really powerful. And you see this in certain, I want to use the word survivor communities that have made it through some really hard illnesses, diseases, and whatnot, where they really stress those things. They're not telling you not to get the chemotherapy or the whatever therapy from science. You should do that. Listen to your doctors. But there's this other side of our healing that gets really neglected in this very cold clinical way of viewing our health. That is the importance of having these support systems, both seen and unseen, to give us strength, courage, and energy to get through.
The other thing I really liked that came out of the story there was that sometimes the healing journey stuff happens and it doesn't work or it goes bad. And death is an eventuality for everyone and just part of that process. Like having this jealous God of healing, we're reminded that as healers or as recipients of healing, it helps to remind them you could still be a great healer and heal and sometimes fail. Like this is just part of the process, part of that journey. Sometimes failure is just there because DianCécht gets mad and just not working. Just they have to throws whatever your healing energies are into the air and disperse it.
Because you can see this torment inside of him. Like he's so
Yeah,
angry, he strikes his son 4 times. He
poor
does
Tom.
4 what should have been mortal blows, and his son heals 3 of them. And then finally, in just absolute blind rage, delivers the 4th blow that no one could ever heal. Like it is just such an
Mhm.
egregious wound that no one could heal it. and then immediately sees the results of what he did, and his
Right.
tears mix with his son's blood. Like, there's something in that that I think we all need to really bear to heart, because I always hated this story until the pandemic happened. Like, the pandemic changed my view of the story, because I watched these DianCécht going on to social media, going on to podcasts, sometimes getting to go on the news and on the mainstream platforms and talk about their various not real treatments and doing harm. Because no, I know the right way. I know the right way. I'm smarter than the entire medical community. You're not better than me. It's that same ego see in DianCécht that no, no one can be a better healer than me. No, I know you use this completely unrelated medicine that has absolutely not shown itself to be effective at all in any of the clinical trials. And you ignore the actual, I'm not going to say his name because I do not want to give him any airtime, but you'll know who I'm talking about if you were conscious during this period. There's a certain very popular podcaster who got sick, went to the hospital, was treated with all of the effective treatments to get rid of the plague, but also added in quack treatment because he insisted on having the quack treatment thrown in. And then said that his recovery was solely related to the quack treatment. That's DianCécht. Like, that is this jealous, angry healer god. Like, no one knows better than me. No one knows better than me. Like, when Aramid pulls up all of the herbs and is going to record, here's all of the ways to actually heal all of the ailments of the body, just scatters them to the wind. No,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only one who knows how to do this. That's when this story hit home for me, because I had this kind of weird rationalism still in me. Try to get rid of most of that. We are irrational beings, and I have to stop imagining humans as rational beings. I had that baked into me as a child. I'm still trying to get it out. But I thought, like, during something that bad, he would at least be rational enough to listen to the people who were actually studying it and finding out ways to make it better and to actually cure it. And to see this exact opposite, I saw DianCécht come in and scatter all of the herbs that Aramid had gathered. I saw it in real time. I saw the living, breathing reenactment of this myth, of this legend, happen in real time. That's when my mind completely changed about this myth. I was like, oh, that is how we are. That is, yes, that is how we are.
It really is a lesson and reminder of humility for anyone wanting to be a healer or anyone who is a healer already. It's not just humility as in keeping your ego in check, because it's very easy to let that ego run wild, but also humility in sometimes the healing doesn't work. And sometimes it could be something that works a bunch of times and then just doesn't. And it could be as fickle as it just didn't work.
Yeah.
It was something I struggled with a lot last year in my own healing journey, in exploring some of the healing arts, and having some days when I would try stuff and it would work and I'd be like, wow, that's amazing. And the next day I would try it again and it didn't work. And then I would just be like, oh, well, I guess maybe it was all in my head. Like, I would just lose faith entirely. And it's like really important to remember, like, no, sometimes DianCécht just jumps in there and slaps you upside the head because jealous.
4 times.
You just got to roll with it and go, okay, just because the one time it didn't work, you got to journal it. You want to make sure you're collecting your data and analyzing it properly. Don't assume the beach is only seashells, and don't assume it's not. Either way, to go off the analogy Charlie mentioned earlier, that humility is really, really helpful.
I grew up in the country. I grew up very rural for a lot of my childhood. My great grandfather, as we did an entire episode on, he was one of the cunning folk. Everyone called him Doc. To this day, I don't have to tell anyone the name of my grandfather's family because it's not the name I currently have, right? I'm related to his daughter. I don't have his name on me. But if I just say, oh, I'm related to Doc, even today, he died in the 80s. Even today, people in this town go, and they know who I'm talking about because he's like a local legend around here. If you've been here long enough, you've heard stories about Doc and the things that he was able to do. My experience is very skewed by this because they sent my grandmother home with cancer and told her she was going to die. And he whipped up something that everyone in the family wishes that we knew what was. Her cancer went into remission. Now, sometimes that spontaneously happens. Was it what he brewed up for her? No, we don't know. We all wish we knew. But she also had other cancers later in life that required medical treatment. And the doctors were able to treat them and give her a long life. Like, she lived well into her 90s. That's the thing. Sometimes the best medical science gave up on her. And it was what most people would call the woo-woo stuff that somehow she lived, she survived, made it through. Sometimes it was the medical science. That's the thing. You have to trust both. I'm not saying that you always have to go to your acupuncturist or this, that, or the other. There's something about having that supportive community. It's something about having those people that believe in you, that give you strength. And again, we're going to talk about this more later in the week when we talk about Nwyfre, and we're going to do an episode on the Anam Cara, on soul friends. There is a magic to that has been shown to lengthen life. Like, when you do longevity studies, people who have strong supportive friend networks live longer. That's science. That's not just woo-woo talking points. Now, is it because of woo-woo? Again, like I always say, we'll never know if any of our spiritual beliefs are true until we die. We just won't. But I'm here looking for whatever makes my life better. If that's getting my flu shots so I don't catch a disease that I don't want to have, a disease that has been linked to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, by the way. Get your flu shots, everybody. Get your flu, shingles, and pneumonia shots. They really do help you out in a lot of ways that aren't just related to those three things. The science is in. But also, I'm going to take my herbal remedies because I know how they affect me. I know that they often affect me better than some of the medications that I've been put on. That's knowing your own body and having people around you that are not going to lie to you. Like, when you're like, I think I'm feeling better. And we'll say, well, you're not acting like it, because we can gaslight ourselves as well as other people can gaslight us. Having those supportive communities that are going to help us, that are going to be doing the study and doing the work and helping us to find those things that can get us through. That is how we do this particular kind of magic.
Along with that, there was something else I really liked that was covered repeatedly in this chapter, and that's living in right relationship.
Yep.
This is something that's very, very essential to the entire craft, but it was all about, like, when you're looking at your diet, what you're eating, right? It's living in right relationship with that for each individual practitioner, because everybody's biochemistry is different and their bodies are different, and they're going to process stuff slightly differently than the next person. So in living with right relationship, you got to learn you actually need what you don't need, and trying to have that proper balance. And they take time to talk about they don't say feng shui, but basically the energies of your house.
Yeah.
And the environment you live in, because we all spend quite a bit of time in our house and around our houses. And so it's living in right relationship with that. If you need more sunlight, having more sunlight. If you need less sunlight, having that shade, having those things where you can affect your environment to bring in or extract some of those things that you need and don't need more of. As we talked about last week, do you resonate more with water? Do you resonate more with trees or air or whatever that is? Then adding those into your biome, your household, having that will bring a healthier life. It'll bring more of that revitalization on an everyday basis.
Yeah, my dream home would have either a stream or a pond or both, really accessible from it, because being around those kinds of natural bodies of water, like lakes, don't really do it for me. Like, the bigger it gets, the less connection I feel with it personally. Like a pond, a stream. I don't want to live next to a river. I want to live next to a stream. And
Like,
learning that about yourself, like we said before, is really important. One of the things that gets me about this chapter, and if anybody can prove me wrong on this, please put it in the comments. I would love to see it if it exists. But as a devotee and priest of Brigid, Brigid is a goddess of healing. Brigid has been a goddess of healing in the oldest of stories we have about her. I do not know of a story where DianCécht challenges her.
laughing my first thought was, he didn't want to get his butt whooped. That's why there was no challenge this year.
By her or her brothers, yeah.
Yeah, he couldn't handle, he couldn't handle an L in there. So he stayed undefeated by not issuing the challenge.
Well, I bring that up because it's the contrast here. When we're talking about paganism And I think this is also important when we understand the pagan roots of both Judaism and Christianity, because the old Israelite faith was henotheistic, it was polytheistic, and all of those gods are still in scripture. They've just been absorbed into one deity. So we see all of their names in there. We just all say that all of those names are referring to one being. But when you're dealing with this sort of polytheism, and I think that this is a result of the way we've taught Greek mythology to people. There's the god of healing. Asclepius is your god of healing. And so when we say something like DianCécht is the god of healing, we neglect Hermod, we neglect Brigid, and don't realize that they too are deities of healing. Apollo in Greek mythology was a god of healing as well. There are actually quite a few that get scattered through the Greek pantheon. But the thing about Brigid offers a different kind of healing because her healing comes from the soul. Like her healing is from the healing springs. It's from that connection to the land. The power of Brigid's healing is about having and finding the resources that you need when you need them. It's a different kind of healing that we see in the stories of Brigid. And I just find it very interesting that we don't see these stories of them in conflict with each other. Also, that we see, to me, the most striking story is, I think it's in the Kathmatoya, where Brigid's son, Ruad, is killed. And she holds him in her arms and she begins to keen. For the first time, teaching basically first person to keen in Ireland, to just this wailing grief cry into the air. This goddess of healing cannot heal her own child. She doesn't even call DianCécht to heal. She sees him and knows that he is beyond help, that he is gone, that she has lost him. This wailful mourning cry comes out from her. Brigid, depending on the versions of the story, had maybe 4 children, all of which died terrible, sad deaths. Like none of it does not end well for any of her kids, which is sad. Because he is too ready for war, too eager for war, which there's a lesson there. And her other 3, because they thought they were so wise, they didn't have to listen to anybody else. And that's not a good way to live either. But I wanted to bring her up because, one, she's not brought up in this chapter. And I wanted to bring her up as just a contrast, not to say Brigid is better than DianCécht. And he knew that, which is why he never challenges her. She doesn't practice the same kind of medicine he does. He's literally laying hands on people and healing them. What does it say in the story? His hand could close wounds just by touching them, right? He is providing herbal medicines and potions and whatnot. He's providing a very different kind of healing than she does. And to me, that's why his ego doesn't come into it. His jealousy doesn't come into it, because she is not overstepping his domain. That's really why I wanted to bring her up, because I think this is the problem. If you're doing holistic healing, if you're doing healing touch or Reiki, your practice does not interrelate with a medical doctor who's prescribing medicines, that's prescribing treatments, that's prescribing possible surgeries. Your practice does not overlap with them, and their practice does not overlap with yours. And this is where you become that dangerous DianCécht that would smack his own son 4 times to kill him, and then immediately regret it when you overstep your bounds of your healing arts. Like I said, if anybody knows a story where DianCécht and Brigid go after each other about being healers, I would love, please share it. But I have never seen this story. And I think this is why. DianCécht is a physician. Brigid is a healer.
Yeah, I always felt he was over more of the physicians, and the miracle healers kind of fell under DianCécht's domain. And Brigid was more of that herbology, alignment, attunement, I guess what most people nowadays would call the healthy living type healing paths. And if you were to try to put them into a domain of healing.
This is a powerful lesson, because I think where we get ourselves in trouble where our health is concerned is you have somebody who's providing more holistic spiritual healing, and they start telling you to ignore your doctor. You're providing 2 different kinds of healing care. The challenge between somebody who's going through both spiritual direction and psychotherapy. One is addressing specifically the issues of the mind and the psyche. The other is dealing with issues of the soul and the lifestyle. And they really shouldn't be in conflict with each other. And if you're putting yourselves in conflict, that's a you problem that you need to fix. And I think this is the problem that we have in modern everything, is people are not understanding that they need to live by. If you're a doctor and you don't believe in healing touch or Reiki or whatever, that's great. That's wonderful. But as long as you're still to treat your patients, it really matter if they're getting something. I would have been in a wheelchair years ago if it wasn't for a session of healing touch. I couldn't stand up. My back was hurting so bad. I couldn't even sit up in a chair for a long period of time, and nothing was helping. And I had a healing touch session. So my back just felt like it caught on fire. I was fine for years. It helped me in ways that I can't put into words in a way that medical science couldn't. But I still do the things that my doctor told me, right? I'm being careful with my knees. I'm being careful with my back. I'm trying to do some of the exercises that I know to do to keep the muscles strong, to keep further degeneration from happening. I'm not ignoring one of the people that I went to for help because another person helped me. Do you see what I'm saying? This is where people are leaving their lanes. You shouldn't be replacing a physician, a doctor, with a healer. They're doing two different things for you. And frankly, I don't care where you find your healing, but you should be listening to both, because that's how we lost Steve Jobs. He stopped listening to his doctors and listened only to his healers, and his condition deteriorated quickly. And we should go through 1,000 stories like that. That's because people stepped out of their lane and stepped out of their role. And I think that that's something we can get from this story as well, because I think that's why we don't see a confrontation between Brigid and DianCécht, because they're two different things. The healing arts that you learn from Brigid are not the pharmaceutical arts that you would learn from DianCécht. It's two different kinds of healing that are compatible. When we can start understanding that we can have this both and relationship with things, we get better, especially for those of us who practice the healing arts. We should be learning from science. Like, I love that Philip brings that up in the chapter, because we don't have to rely on the superstition that says that mellow sweet does this or vervain does that. We have scientific studies that show us what these things are actually good for. And you know what? Wow, our ancestors actually knew what they were talking about with a lot of these things. And we bring them up a lot, especially the bigger ones that people are familiar with, like the St. John's wort or the lavender. We have the science, like these things are actually helpful. We should be listening to and talking to one another, but we shouldn't be overstepping each other's bounds. And that's one of the reasons why most books and stuff that talk about any of the healing arts always start with these long preambles about how you should still go to a doctor. This is not medical advice. I kind of love the idea that they're saying this is not medical advice, because what a healer is providing you is not medicine. Even if we use the word medicine, it's not medicine. We're not doctors. Doctors provide medicine and medical advice. We're here to try to bring healing to your spirit and hopefully also to your body, mind, and soul. Two different schools that are trying to treat the human being. And if we live that way, I think we have a much better world. Trying not to get on a rant about a certain person right now. Oh, if you're American, you know who I'm talking about. Alrighty. I hope that this episode has helped you out. I hope you like this chapter. I love this chapter. And if you're like, but you didn't get to this, that, or the other, we're going to be doing a special episode on Nwyfre, and we're going to be doing a special episode on the Anam Cara. We're going to touch on a lot of the other stuff from the chapter in those, but it was a lot. As you can tell, this was a lot. We have a lot to say on those as well. So we'll be getting to Nwyfre tomorrow, because, we've already done an episode on it. So if you want to get some preamble on it, you can go back and check our older episode on Nwyfre and get ready for the new episode, because, there's so much more to say. I would love to know your thoughts on this chapter. How did it resonate with you? What did you glean from it? You let us know down in the comments. If you're listening to us on YouTube or Spotify, you can leave a comment right there. If you're listening to us anywhere else, even if they say you can leave a comment, they do not let us know. So you leave a comment there anyway, because engagement is magic. And then head over to creationpaths.com and click on chat. And there you can leave us a message and we'll be able to see it, get back to you, and everything will be awesome. While you're there, if you happen to have a few dollars you can pass our way, we offer monthly and annual memberships. Thank you, especially to our annual memberships, but even to our monthly ones. You all are really helping us out a lot. You can also support us on Patreon and Ko-fi. I am CE Dorset on both. or you can support us directly through Cash App, through the cash tag creations apps. Thank you to everyone who does that. You really do help us keep the lights on, keep a roof over our head, and food on our table. If you don't have any money right now, or you're not sure we're the kind of people that you want to give your hard-earned treasure to, completely understand that. That's fair. But if we have said anything on this podcast or any of our other episodes that's helped you out, or you think would help somebody else out, please share it with them. It helps us out more than you could possibly know. Everybody who does that, y'all are amazing. And we can always tell when y'all start sharing the stuff out there, because we get to meet all kinds of wonderful new people. And that is, after all, why we're doing this, to help out as many people as we can. All right. As we're heading out, I know who I should be saying a prayer to, and I know who I want to be saying a prayer to, but I'm going to throw you a curveball. Oh, sweet Aramid, who wept at her brother's grave and who tried to collect all of the wisdom of healing for us. Help us as we go out into the world to seek all of the medicines that will heal us, mind, body, and spirit, so that we may bring restoration to everyone in mind, body, and spirit. Amen.
Amen.